Good morning and welcome to Today the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Damlola Ogunshaki. Here on Vanguard Live, we review and give an in-depth analysis on some of the stories making waves on the dailies across Nigeria. And this morning, I'll be starting with the front page of Vanguard newspaper. And on the front page, we have a BORNO Governor to Army. I'll use hunters if you can't protect us. BORNO Governor blasts Army over attack on convoy in Baga. Tells Army, if you can't secure Baga, we'll mobilize hunters to do the job. We are investigating attack circumstances, and this is coming from Army. Soldier kills supervisor over non-payment of salary, past denial. Killer soldier depressed, says Army. And we have Lagos records 89 new infection as confirmed cases rise to 42,689. And you can see more of this on page 5 and the COVID-19 update on page 41. Moving on to other stories, on page 10 we have Buhari, Tinubu, others mourn as Afenifere leader Fasomi dies at 94. On page 12, Edo, Wike, Oshomole trade words over Ize Yamo. And on page 6, calls feared dead as multiple explosions rock Maduguri. And on page 7, we have a Tinubu Dogara ticket rumor, and that's coming from Governor Buni. And on page 8, Gowon Christian Association of Nigeria blame political leaders for Nigeria's woes. And on the stories above the nameplates, on page 14, we have Eid El Kabir, Buhari governors, others urge compliance with COVID-19 protocols. On page 13, Ohaneze Ataize battle Southeast governors on council polls. And lastly, on the front page of Vanguard, we have 2023 presidency. Daura can't advise Nigerians on zoning, says Edwin Clark. And from the front page of Vanguard, we move straight to The Nation. And on the front page of The Nation, we have a governor accuses military of sabotage in convoy attack. Army to probe incidents. Soldier shoots dead officer, blast rock Maduguri. And you can see this on the front page of The Nation, and it continues on page 28. And lastly, on the front page of The Nation, we have an NBA president. Apata defeats Adesina and Ajibade Sanford's process, and you can see more of this on page 7. And from The Nation, we move straight to The Punch. On the front page of The Punch, we have widows, IDPs knock federal government over amnesty for Boko Haram fighters. And the writer, my children are fatherless, insurgents must be prosecuted, says a Borno woman. I'm sad government releasing insurgents who killed my husband, abducted my daughter. I will recruit local hunters to secure Baga if soldiers can't, Zulum says after attack. And you can see more of this on page 2. And moving on to the stories below, soldier goes berserk, kills officers over frozen salary accounts. And from the front page of The Punch, we move straight to Daily Trust. On the front page of Daily Trust, we have Salam. Buhari issues a fresh caution on COVID-19. Inspector General of Police warns against mass gathering. Lawan Gbajabiamila governors urge prayers and patience. Vaccine may be available in 6 months, says NCDC. And you can see more of these on page 4. And lastly, on the front page of Daily Trust, we have a manufacturing sector shrinks by 14.3% in 7 months. And you can see more of these on page 18. And that's all we have for you on the paper review for this morning. I will be going on a short break now, and when we return, we'll be analyzing some of the stories on the pages with you. And of course, I have a guest with me in the studio. Will be joining. Will be joining us via Zoom. Stay with us. We'll be back. All right, welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Today in the News on Vanguard Live. And of course, here we review and give in-depth analysis on some of the stories making waves on the dailies across Nigeria. And I've reviewed some of the front pages of the papers, and now this is the analysis segment. And joining me here via Zoom is Benro Olajuigbe, the Executive Director, Emergency and Risk Alert. Good morning, Mr. Benro.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Yes. Okay. This morning we're starting with, of course, what is going on the front page of Vanguard newspaper. Please, can you speak louder so that we can hear you? And of course, yesterday I'm sure you might have seen the video, and also you might have read the front pages of the papers. You know, Borno State Governor's convoy was fired at by persons suspected to be Boko Haram insurgents, and he blasted Nigerian army over the attack, saying he would not hesitate to engage hunters if the military failed to secure Baga. What's your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think it's very good for him to have experienced to have the first encounter of what ordinary Nigerians have been going through in Borno State. Let me quickly place it on record that Borno State government has been agile, he has been productive, he has been responsive, he has been responsible in terms of engaging the condition of his people. It's unfortunate that he was attacked, but then that is the everyday experience of ordinary Nigerians in Borno and the entire Northeast. And of course, by extension, in other parts of the country. What that is saying is that there is failure of security, irrespective of how you say it. We have been saying it day in, day out. But it's good that those in authority actually experience and encounter it, so that they can tell their story. It was hard the way he lambasted the army. Because ordinarily, for a person of his caliber, he ought to have gotten a situation report of wherever he was going. But I don't think the security report was reliable, the one he got. And unfortunately, he saw the lapses and he was angry. He could have been a victim, or even those in his entourage would have been killed by Boko Haram. And that would have been a very huge disappointment on the security profile of the area. But you cannot equally engage this without looking at the situation of the soldiers on the ground fighting the war, the despondency, the stress that are set in terms of taking care of, as we have had in several video released by them. And what that is telling us, we have emphasized this several times. There is need to rejig the security architecture of Nigeria, and particularly provide another strategy, security strategy of engaging the violence in the northeast. Rejigging security architecture is not, of course, it's not excluding changing the heads of security operatives, and of course the finance should be looked into, the institutional framework should be reviewed, and the command structure is getting archaic, and doctrine, you can see that even doctrine, their own doctrine is not working, because you have a lot of soldiers throwing in the towel, some absconding, some retiring, or writing letter of retirement. That means that there is despondency in the army already, and very timely now, if President should listen to others who have been calling for rejigging the security architecture of the country in terms of its framework of operation, rules of engagement, intelligence accumulation, in terms of gathering information, relevant and irrelevant, sending them out and presenting it to people that are at the app, so that they can reduce the risk of their own vulnerability, like even that of the governor too.
But
by such detailed analysis of his vulnerability and the state of affairs here. You
Oh.
See the argument between him and the soldiers on the ground. He was saying that, of course, you told me that this place was safe. And that place was extremely dangerous for him to have tread. But then, that has happened. And that should tell you about the frustration is the suggestion of replacing soldiers with hunter. Of course, that should tell you about what the soldiers have become in terms of ability to offer a trustable intelligence.
But
so if a governor could be that frustrated,
Governor Zulum saying that it's a clear case of sabotage and an embarrassment, to President Muhammadu Buhari's APC government. Do you think that statement is actually correct?
I wouldn't know. The analysis of the situation is left for the person on ground. It's left for him to juxtapose the information and security intelligence he has gotten with what he met on the ground. So I will not reach conclusion on sabotage. But it's in better position to assess that. And also there must be indication into such attack. You don't just lay ambush for governor and the secretariat like that. When sufficient intelligence has been, is assumed to have been presented, and the safety and security was okay by such intelligence. Intelligence is supposed to be almost 95% reliable and not the type of guesswork that we do here. If you say intelligence that is not so reliable to a governor to the extent that life was put at risk and the lives of those who are in his entourage, it's unfortunate. It deserves to be investigated. But nevertheless, I will not reach a very rushy conclusion of sabotage.
Okay, let's talk about Gowon and the Christian Association of Nigeria, saying that that the current problem in Nigeria, that it can actually be blamed on the bad economy and also bad leadership. What are you say about that?
The two are interwoven. You can't fix your economy if you don't get the leadership right. Leadership is about vision. Visioning where you want to take people, and people believing you and following you. So the council mission is actually right. The economy is bad. And look at what makes people to be vulnerable to conflict or even to be recruitable is the fact that they are extremely poor and they can't find other way out. And like we used to say in our public palace, that an idle man is devil's workshop. That is what is playing out. What it does to vulnerability of people, the poverty digs holes, it digs graves, open graves, put people there, and prevent them from escaping to a condition where they can act on their behalf, a condition where they can actually meet the basic requirement of life, of living. And the fact of it is that every book of criminology has established the fact that economic factor is a strong push, is a strong drivers of violence anywhere in the world. Look at what poverty have done to Nigeria, the extreme inequalities that it has created, and of course Nigeria has become a sort of pyramid where minority are in the apex of the pyramid, while the ladder of the pyramid is occupied by many people that have been condemned unto poverty and misery. This has exacerbated vulnerability, and the risk factors have been created by the environment that we live, economic environment, which has influenced the political environment, which could be put on the table of leadership. So the leadership is not wrong. It's not leading right. And in every situation, I used to say, a leader's sin is a leading sin. That means that people is not going to get when they are on the race beyond where the leaders can take them, because the envisioning leaders are expected to envisioning where they are taking the people. So a leader that is not moving, that is on snail speed, in most cases on reverse gear, is not likely to take people to where they want to get to. And misfortune such as economic misery, a foreclosed feature of such leadership conundrum.
But Mr. Gbero, can we blame everything, on the leadership in Nigeria? What of the citizens and what everybody's just doing to support the leadership? Because they do say that for them to have a good leader, you also need to have people who are going to be supporting them.
Well, look, there's what you call a society is structurally wired. There's what you call, if you do the structural analysis of violence in Nigeria, you will find out that it depends on what the leaders put on as legal norm. It depends on what they put down as caution norm, and it depends on what they eventually show as the dominant nature of people they want to see. So who controls the economy? It doesn't matter what you do. Look at the situation. Let me just give you a classical example of why leaders matter in defining what becomes a state. The other time, when COVID was first recorded, the incident case in Nigeria, after several times, the president made a proclamation. What happened? All work stopped. Everything stopped. Though the declaration was to prevent people from contracting COVID. But I'm just telling you what word of leaders, what action of leaders can do. Some leaders have even taken a very robust preparedness, deployed preparedness responsibility in a way that their countries are well managed to the extent that this COVID did not cause maximum damage. Look, the way the COVID is spread in the US, they are blaming Trump for it. So I don't want you can only blame individual with maybe when you come to the micro level of economy. But when you are talking of macro economy, which have the capacity to influence how politics will be played, which have the capacity of how citizens will engage, which have the capacity of how productivity will be, of course, you have no option than to place the blame on the table of leaders. That is the reason we have leaders to coordinate activities. All sectors must be coordinated. But when you look at it, which of the sector is working? In fact, reduce it to the three ambitions of the president. Is it the conflict? That is the peace sector, sector for harmony, sector for economic conducive environment. Is it thriving? Look at the economy itself. Are people faring better? Look at politics itself. What is the nature of democracy that we have, and the politics and politicking embedded in it? And of course, look at the nature of security you have. All these combined together in varying permutation to determine what will happen to a state. And if all these things are wrong, who do you blame for it? Is the person that told the public, that told Nigeria or the state that I have what it takes, the capacity, the competence, and the character to address all these questions and issues. And when failure comes, we should not shy away from it. That is what you call holding your leader to account in all things that happen to a country. So do I have power now? And look, if you do the power analysis, the power rests on him. I can't deploy even ordinary Boy Scouts. He can deploy all the armed forces irrespective of where they are recently to another place. No individual has power. We have constituted authority. This authority was constituted with the hope that they are going to be acting responsibly on behalf of citizens. we have donated and we have decided to live within the ambit of what Constitution has provided and concede
you talked about COVID-19
and other leaders.
You talked about COVID-19 and how it has stopped all activities, and we know of how it has affected schools and all that. I know that on Tuesday, at August 4th, students will be back to school, especially the exit students, the students in the exit classes, they will be back to school. Now, talking about this now, do you see these schools reopening properly, for these students to prepare for their exam, and also seeing them following the COVID-19 protocols?
Well, let me tell you what leaders do. We will still revert back to leaders. In fact, the moment the country was shut down and schools were closed, the first thing should not be to go to bed and sleep as a leader. You knew ab initio that this school will be resuming one day after COVID or even during COVID. What have you put in place? Putting in place in terms of prevention, that is building the environment that will engender safety for the children when they go back to school. What is in place in respect of that? Okay, in terms of responding, what you call protocol is just to reduce the risk. Okay, what have you put in place in all these schools, particularly public and private schools in this respect? What have they put in place to ensure that even in the midst of COVID, if these children resume school and there is a situation or incident, how do you handle it? All those things ought to have been approved by the government before allowing school to go on resumption. And at the same time, I've spoken about preventive measure, responsive measure, now the remedial measure. What remedial measure do you have in place? Should a student contract COVID, what are you going to do? These are issues that ought to have been addressed before you now announce and re-announce resumption of school. Just 3 weeks ago, you cancelled resumption date that was nothing, that there was no time for resumption, but you submitted to pressure from stakeholders of educational institutions to resume. But the question I will continue to ask is what government has ascertained that are in place for people to be assured and to be confident that if they send their children to school, they will not be infected with COVID. These are what we should be engaging, what is on the ground, and not just because you have the template of WIC, the template of NECO, let them go and write WIC, let them go and one of the things I earlier suggested that government should have done is to immediately WIC announce its exam timetable, realizing that it was WIC is a sub-regional organization. Nigeria ought to have led conversation with other West African countries who are in the hub of WIC harmoniously, diplomatically, and come to a conclusion of when those member countries assume or agree that it will be safe for children to return to school to go and write their WIC. But that was not done. It was the expected diplomatic engagement was lost. Having lost that opportunity, when you say that even your children you are not presenting them for WIC. Now the question is that what has triggered this latest response of reopening school on August 4th? What's the last question the government should ask? Is it that they are prepared enough? The school are in good state to manage COVID now? Or that they can competently respond to it? These are the behavior of characteristical behavior of children when they are in school or in group. So such have not been done. We don't even know. They have not ascertained the level of vulnerability of the children, their exposure to the risk on the ground, and what they have done with all aforementioned to reduce the risk.
Okay, Mr. Barron, now let's go on a short break, and when we return, we will continue from where we stop. Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is Today in the News on Vanguard Live. My name is Davilola Ogunshaki, and Mr. Gwero Olujigbe, Executive Director, Emergency and Risk Alliance, has joined us via Zoom. Welcome back, Mr. Gwero.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's talk about the IDP camp. So, widows and other victims of Boko Haram insurgency in Borno State have berated the federal government for taking care of the insurgents at the expense of internally displaced persons. What do you have to say about this? Because of course, before they're saying this now, we've seen other persons that have come out to say that these Boko Haram, these people, that the former ones who have been reintegrated back into the community, they've gone back to their former ways.
Well, it's unthinkable that government will engage in such dangerous, frustrating venture that will lead to reversal of gain, if any has been recorded at all. This is not how to carry out the radicalization. The radicalization is expected to happen within the context of crisis, the context of insurgency. What has happened to the people that have been affected, killed, maimed, whose property has been destroyed, captured, detained, assaulted, insulted, and decapitated by these characters that are called Boko Haram. What is the nature of repentance? What does it mean to repent? When you are talking of somebody that have engaged in armed violence, what have you done as a government to ensure that what have you done as a government to ensure that to ensure what you actually call the radicalization? If you have to do the radicalization, one, you have to understand the contents in which they were radicalized in the first place, the dogma that supported the radicalization, the ideology that triggered the radicalization, and you cannot be radicalized unless you have gone back to ensure they unlearn what they have learned. That the radicalization is an empowerment program. Radicalization is a conscious, deliberate, strategic plan to ensure that violence are taken from it, act, and hand of those that have been so armed to perpetrate horrendous atrocity because of ideology they are submitted to, because of dogma they have been injected with. So, and you cannot do this at the expense of society. When you are talking of justice to all, the first category of human beings that deserve justice are those that have been unjustly treated. In this case, you have multiple people that.
Do you agree with the community resistance of the radicalization of these Boko Haram insurgents?
I don't agree. It's not good. The way they are doing it is not the way you do the radicalization. That's what I've been saying. It's not. It does not comply with international norm for the radicalization. It does not rather what they are doing is re-victimization. You are hurting the victim the second time. It's re-victimization of those that have been affected, of those that have been impacted, of those that whose lives, whose limbs, whose liberty have been destroyed. So you are re-victimizing those people by playing those who assault them on them. You cannot do the radicalization without even managing the post-traumatic trauma that those that have been affected have faced. It's like, okay, let me give a very simple example that is not even as wide as this. You arrest somebody for raping a lady. Now, you say that the rapists have repented, and you throw the rapist without giving justice to the rape victim, and you throw him back to society. What do you think will be the nature? What do you think will be the condition of the rape victim in such society? It is very unthinkable and unjust thing to do. It does not sit anywhere. When you return them back to the society they have brought, and who is telling you that you are not even recycling them? Because they will definitely go back. Anytime you capture a criminal, there's no criminal that will tell you when he has lost all the power, in this case, raw power to engage you, that will not tell you that he regrets what he has done. How does that qualify to be repentance? Even God, he said that for you to repent, you have to forsake your sins. In most cases, you have to address what you have done wrong, which is called remediation. In the Christian, is remediation of the damage that has been done. And that has been the responsibility of government, and they have failed in that responsibility. The insurgency is still going on. This is not post-insurgency era. So what are you doing the radicalization in the midst of terrible horror and terror that is going on for?
Okay, some of this, some of the mothers and the victims of these Boko Haram's evil perpetration, they are complaining, saying that that the government is actually wasting huge resource on these Boko Haram members, because take for them now, they've not given them anything to help them. And also talking about the children, the mother says that she has to watch she watches people's clothes in order for her to feed her children. So what are you going to say about this? Because we've been hearing about them saying that they've been feeding them and all that. So what are you going to say about these people's reaction?
Me, it's not even hearing about them. I work in the Northeast. I see them. I have seen them. I have experienced them. I have encountered them. I know what they are doing. The challenge, the experience is that these people are not, their treatment does not mean what we call minimum spare standards. They are treated as subhuman, whether in terms of their needs, provision for their needs, whether in terms of liberty, whether in terms of concern, and of course they have become merely object of charity. They don't see them as subject of rights, which is wrong in the first place. Their displacement from their habitual residence was not their fault. They had well-founded fear, which this well-founded fear was as a result of failure of protection by the state. The state could not protect them. Some of them were killed. Most of them, or all of them, invariably lost their means of livelihood. So they should be not only at mercy of charity, there should be proper plan to take care of them. Most of the 50% of response there are left in the hands of NGOs, in the hands of donor partners. To provide protection for those that are even in the camp in terms of not being abused. You have had cases of sex for food. They are further being abused even within the territory of what they call refuge, territory of refuge, that should be in which protection should be ensured. And look at it. Look at multitude of children. In the last 12 years, we have been engaging in this senseless war. That should tell you generations are. Is that a good condition? Generation of children. Many children, they are out of school. Generation. Then, if you now look into future, that is a reservation for a war. When you have large number of children who are not going to school, they are even aimlessly walking about. They have been orphaned by the circumstances of insurgency. So it's a bleak future. It's a bleak. Their today is bleak in terms of meeting their needs, responding to their needs, in terms of offering them protection, in terms of even creating environment that will bring them back on their feet. So it's a long walk to freedom for the people. And let me tell you, as long as any part of this country does not have peace, there will be no peace in other areas. Because it's a fluid society, even within the country borders and even beyond the country borders. we are porous, we move about, anybody can be affected by what is going on. Economically, politically, and of course in terms of safety and security.
Okay, the Secretary General of JNI, that's Mr. Abubakar Khalid Aliu, he suggested a true healing program for Boko Haram members. He said that you can't fight war with war. You can also fight it with peace. So what do you have to say about this?
Well, there is a stage in response. There is no response to conflict that fits all. It depends on where the stage we are in. I think, to be frank, Nigeria lost the opportunity of engaging Boko Haram at the threshold of this violence. They thought that they were just dealing with ragtag sequential lots. At that time, even before the bombing of UN office in 2011, there was ample opportunity for engagement, for dialogue, conceding to one another in terms of negotiation. But now, are we at that level? Many waters have passed through the bridges. Can you extract truth? There are strains of Boko Haram now. There are Abanawi fashion, several other fashion. Who are the people you are going to bring on your table? People that are even killing their own leaders, or what they call betrayal now. So it was not monolithic Boko Haram we had before. It has been bifurcated into several strains now, to the extent that makes negotiation very difficult. At a macro level, didn't governor of Kano's Katsina State claim to have negotiated with just bandits, the head of bandits? Did it last for 2-3 weeks before they retouched and started their destructive work and exhibit their such tendency again? So you have to understand, before you move idea of negotiation, before you move idea of granting amnesty to people, you have to understand the character of the people. That is why I'm saying that what radicalized these people? You have to go into the root of it for you to begin to look at the idea. What do you want to put on the table? If somebody says he wants Islamic State, if it is a material contest, if it is a conflict over territory, if it is a conflict over election, negotiation will be apt at this particular time. We are talking of people that have irrevocably proclaim and declare that what they want is having Islamic State of their own fashion, of their own phantom, and of their own creation, of course, of their own act. So what are you going to table with?
Okay.
To negotiate with?
Mr. Aguero, we're actually running out. We're actually running out of time. But quickly, let me ask you this question. For some time now, we've been talking about insecurity. Looking at the attack on the governor of BORNO State, Zulum, and also the Kaduna killings, Boko Haram, and what's actually the right solution, to complete insecurity in Nigeria?
Solution. The solution one: violence. Let me first admit that Nigeria is dealing with a very complex crisis right now. But nevertheless, violence falter because of structural defect. Nigeria must begin to look. In fact, the first thing is to mobilize all Nigerians around what I call national dialogue. National dialogue. National dialogue is not about deciding political situation alone. As a matter of fact, let us forget the political side of national dialogue now. Let us have national dialogue for peace first. And whatever comes out of that national dialogue for peace, let it be fed into the larger ambit of national dialogue on how Nigeria will be governed and run. For now, you cannot you cannot address Kaduna problem alone without addressing that of the Northeast. You cannot be building silos in terms of your response. There must be collective action against it, and it can only happen because, as whether you like it or not, people must still talk. Whether you like it or not, Boko Haram's insurgents are somewhere in the bush. There are some people within us too that latently agree with them, what they are doing, whether you like it or not. Whether you like it or not, we have religious issue, we have ethnic issue, we have political issues, social issues that have been working against national integration. We must address all those things, and that's why we have called on the president to have courage. Okay, suspend the one people are very skeptical about national dialogue, but firstly, as a prelude to that, let us have national dialogue for peace, and at the same time, we need to work out the strategy of how this will be tailored down to the states and to local governments, even to communities. So there must be engagement that will create room for peace building, that will create room for conflict transformation, that will create room for embodied, responsible, responsive, and effective strategy against violent extremism and even extreme violence.
Thank you very much, Mr. Agbero Olujuigbe, Executive Director, Emergency and Risk Alert. Thanks for sharing your thoughts with us.
It's a pleasure being with you.
And that's all we have for you on Today in the News. Don't forget that you can always like and follow us on our social media platforms that are showing on your screen, or visit our website www.vanguardnj.com to get more of our top stories. From me, Damilola Ogushaki, my director, Bankole Idowu, and Assistant Director, Doze Wogu, and also from Precious Chukudi, we're wishing you happy Eid el Kabir to our readers, our Muslim readers, and also our viewers. Bye-bye.